Hey you guys, welcome to the Black Women's Guide to Health, Hormones, and Longevity. I am your guide, Dr. Nicole Peoples, and I am super excited to talk with you guys today because we are going to talk about how to improve your overall health and by extension, your life. I cannot think of a more important topic to talk about, so I want to jump right in. If you're interested in learning how to increase your energy, you're interested in improving your sleep, improving your stress levels, and losing weight or getting more control over your weight, if you're interested in addressing your underlying chronic medical conditions, then you're in the right place because I'm going to show you today and give you 100% clarity on the steps you can take to actually take back control of your overall health. So I'm Dr. Nicole Peoples. I'm a board certified physician in internal medicine, and I've been practicing for over 15 years. But my area of interest is really on how to prevent illness, and I do that using a form of medicine called functional medicine, which I also describe as root cause medicine. This is your ability to identify why you get sick or why people develop illness or why people stay healthy, and then addressing these root causes as opposed to just putting band-aids on symptoms. So one of the things I've seen in my practice is that people will come to the doctor with a myriad of symptoms, increased fatigue, depression, anxiety, and all of their labs may be normal, right? You know as an individual that you are experiencing something that's different in your body. And to have someone tell you that everything looks fine isn't the appropriate answer when you know something is not right. And so the question is at what point do we start to recognize what we can do to actually improve the way we can feel? And what tools and strategies do you have at your own disposal to actually treat an illness or a condition or a symptom even before it arises? And this is even more important in women of color because the health disparities that we experience are much higher. So we have the highest rate of obesity and overweight. We have a 60% more likely chance of being diagnosed with diabetes or high blood pressure. And when we are diagnosed with diseases like cancer, heart disease, strokes, we're more likely to die from those. We also have higher infant mortality rate. So you can see here there's a trend where there are these significant health disparities, particularly for women of color. And it's important that we figure out a way to not just treat these illnesses, but really prevent them and get to the root cause of those symptoms. But one of the things that was really impactful for me was that during COVID, I was seeing so many women coming in with advanced COVID or advanced illnesses from diseases that were preventable. So the majority of the people who were getting sick and that I was treating in the hospital were people who had an underlying condition. And those underlying conditions were uncontrolled, and as a result, people were getting much more sick. But there is something else that was happening, particularly in my life and in something I was observing in the patients I was treating, that even before developing these other chronic illnesses that led patients into the hospital, that people were experiencing these other symptoms that were going undiagnosed, and I was experiencing them myself. So just things like moodiness, forgetfulness, increased weight, or overwhelm or depression. These were symptoms that, again, that women were experiencing way before they were seeing me in the hospital, but were signs that something else was happening in their bodies and that they needed to take action on. And so I usually explain this to people like this. So in this picture, it's one of my favorite pictures that describes what root cause medicine actually means. So just like if you were to see a tree or a plant, the way you can determine if that tree or plant is healthy is by looking at its leaves, right? So in this picture, you see a tree, it looks like it's flourishing, and the leaves are a symptom of what's happening underneath the soil in the roots, right? So if the roots are diseased, then the plant will be diseased. Well, this is the same for humans. So oftentimes we see ourselves with these diagnoses, high blood pressure, diabetes, anxiety, depression, etc. And these are just symptoms of something that's happening deeper in our bodies. And the real question is what is happening in the roots for people that allow us to develop these illnesses? So here are some of them but some of the most important ones. Things like stress, lack of sleep, toxins, poor diet, trauma, nutrient deficiencies. All of these things are things that we can actually influence. Even here where it says genetics, oftentimes many people are under the impression that their genetics are their destiny, that their genetics determine whether they develop all of these diseases that you can see up above. But really, there is an entire world of science called epigenetics, which basically means how does your lifestyle influence your genetics? And all of these other things in the roots actually influence your genetics. But there's something very specific to women. Our hormones are much different, and oftentimes our hormones are playing a much larger role than we might have previously thought. And so really figuring out how to understand our hormones, number one, but then number two, understand how to keep our hormones in balance are going to be a main driver specifically for women. So I want you to remember this diagram. I want you to remember all of these things that are here in the roots, and really think, do I know how to address inflammation in my body? Do I know how to get rid of toxins or avoid toxins? And even for things that may seem familiar, like toxic thoughts or poor relationships, things that you may think that you have control over. The real question is, can you optimize these areas so that your health actually improves, that the manifestation of your health improves? So I want to share with you this second image here because it's also, I think, something it took me a while to quite understand why women were experiencing symptoms that were seemingly problematic but undiagnosable. So this is a diagram of what happens to your estrogen and progesterone over time. And so in the very early stages of your life, your estrogen and progesterone, which are your sex hormones that have a huge impact on the way that you feel, are at their highest and they're stable. And then as you get into your 30s, and into your 40s, you start to see a decline in your progesterone and this sort of erratic up and down motion of your estrogen. And this absolutely impacts the way that you feel. And I know if you are a woman on this call that you know and have experienced this. And oftentimes people will say, oh, you're just moody, or it's just aging. This is just a normal part of aging. But the reality is that these fluctuations in our hormones absolutely need to be considered when we're thinking about how we address these symptoms, so that they're number one, acknowledged as being real, and then secondly, going to the next step and saying, how can we influence the way that we feel so that it doesn't have a significant impact on our quality of life. But what's also important here is that these fluctuations and this decrease in our hormones actually impacts whether or not we develop diseases later. So as we go through menopause and our risk of diseases such as heart disease or cancer increase, what is the impact of hormones on that as well? So it's really important that even if you're in your early 30s or if you're in your 40s, that you are starting to think about these things, understand how your hormones are impacting your health. And if you are in that perimenopausal or postmenopausal state where you no longer are having a rapid or an increased number of production of hormones, that you understand how you can address it. Now, one additional point that I want to make here is that many women aren't even aware that this is happening in their bodies, and they don't understand that the symptoms that they're having may be related to change in their hormones. So it's important that number one, to understand that this change starts in your 30s, right? It can start in many women as early as 35 and go all the way up until postmenopause. And that time frame where your hormones are fluctuating and that you're having symptoms is called perimenopause. It's important for me to make this as a distinction because a lot of women, I think even for myself, I thought that perimenopause was only this time where I had hot flashes. But those feelings of fatigue, depression, weight gain, development of new diseases that you had not had before, going through having issues with your weight, that where you used to be able to manage it by eating less or exercising more, that these things no longer work for you, right? This is because of your hormones. And so having this clear understanding that things might be different in your body because of your hormones is essential first step to knowing how to address it. All right, so what are some symptoms of hormonal imbalances that you may need to be aware of? And this is just a small list. Let me blow it up for you so you can see. So things like irritability, anxiety, depression, weight gain, insomnia, and then some of the more common things that you may be familiar with: missed periods, heavy periods, painful periods, fibroids, endometriosis, but even more importantly, heart disease, strokes. These are really important because it's the #1 cause of death for women over the age of 50 or postmenopausal women. So it's really important that these hormone imbalances are addressed early enough so that we can prevent chronic illness from developing. But it's also important that they're balanced so that we don't feel horrible today. So that's really the goal, is to feel well today, to optimize our health so that over the years our bodies improve. So let's talk a little bit about some of my patients. Throughout this talk, I will share a couple of stories with you so you can absolutely understand the impact of this. So this is one of my patients, Ty. She's a 50-year-old female who's had challenges with her weight for years, mostly around her midsection, to the point where she's developed chronic knee issues, which she underwent surgery for a year prior to joining me in my program. And she had persistent knee swelling and pain after that surgery. She's a person who enjoyed exercising, and like many of my patients will come to me and say, you know what, I feel like I'm doing everything right? I'm eating well, I'm exercising, but I can't lose the weight. I can't figure out why my legs are still swollen, and I'm just not feeling my best. And she says, I can honestly say after 4.5 weeks in Dr. Peoples' programs, I'm feeling like I did when I was in my 30s. My body hasn't felt this good in years. My knee pain and swelling are gone, and I can't believe I've lost the weight without having to exercise. And so one of the things that is really important here is understanding that a lot of women will feel as though that they're doing all of the things, and I see this all of the time. They're eating well. That's sometimes debatable, but they're exercising, but that strategy isn't working for them. The other thing that I think is important to point out is that oftentimes women do come because they're interested in losing weight, but also understanding that the weight that they've been maintaining or increasing over time has an impact on so many other aspects of their health, but the weight is just a symptom, just like all of the other things. And so when we treat the symptoms of weight gain, when we treat the symptoms of inflammation, when we treat those root causes, that we're able to address more than just the weight. We're able to address the pain, the swelling, and some of the other symptoms we'll talk about with some other patients in a minute. And the reason you're able to do this, and this is my philosophy, is that health is a lifestyle. So if you're interested in all of the things that we talked about early on in this talk, increasing your energy, increasing your sleep, and improving the quality of your life and your health, you really have to take a look at your lifestyle. And not necessarily doing a 360 or a 180 on your lifestyle. It's about identifying how you can improve, make those little small changes in your lifestyle that will have a huge impact on your overall health by addressing those root causes. So let me tell you a little bit about another one of my patients, B. So she's a 42-year-old female. She's had 2 kids, and she has an autoimmune condition. Her labs were all normal, but she wanted to feel like she did before she had kids. She wanted more energy. She wanted to lose that extra weight. And she really honestly just wanted to figure out how she could improve her lifestyle habits so that she could have sustainable change. And she says, I'm feeling great. I honestly didn't realize how bloated I was. I've lost 20 pounds, no bloating, thicker hair, and clearer skin. My autoimmune condition significantly improved within the first few weeks without any medications. I'm sleeping better, and I feel more in control of my cravings and my health. And again, just like her, for so many women, particularly after they have children, that things in their body just don't feel like they used to, right? And for some women, this is more significant than others. It can be a new diagnosis of a disease, an autoimmune condition, or diabetes or high blood pressure. It may just be that the weight is hard to come off. Again, the strategy is not to just focus on one disease. The strategy is to approach this from a holistic, comprehensive approach so that we're treating the root causes so that we can get the results that we're looking for. So how do you do that? So I use a framework that I created called the People's Life Prescriptions. And what this is it's taking all of the science and all of the medical knowledge on why people get sick and what helps people still stay well, and breaking that down into actionable steps that you can actually take to improve your health. So I've broken them down into 7 different frameworks, and these 7 all overlap, honestly. So you can do one behavior change or lifestyle change, which will affect many things. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But let me just go over what those 7 pillars are really quickly so that you have a better understanding of what this looks like. So personal life is really about intention. So I know that many people do understand that the way that they think has an impact on the way that they feel. But if you're not actively or intentionally addressing these issues, then you're not going to get the outcomes that you're looking for. So really addressing your intention, your motivation for whatever it is you're trying to achieve is step 1, I think, in making any sustainable change in your health. The second is food life, and this is seemingly more obvious because we talk about food and its relationship to health all the time. But there's just so much more than calories here, and for too long, we've only addressed the issues of calories. We haven't been addressing the issues of food quality or food timing. So there's a lot that we can do here. Sleep life is also extraordinarily important, and I think it's a lot of lip service because people understand that sleep is valuable, but they may not understand the connection to their actual illness. So if your, again, issue is weight, for example, understanding the relationship between sleep and weight gain. If your issue is an autoimmune condition, understanding the relationship between your sleep and how your body develops autoimmunity is really important. So sleep is hugely important, and we spend a lot of time talking about that. Fit life is another one that gets a lot of talk about, what's the best workout to do, how you should be working out. But oftentimes there are some really key areas that are overlooked here, where it's not just about going to the gym, but it's also, thinking about how you are moving throughout the day and what specific exercises are right for you at your stage of life. Connected life is all about your relationships with other people and the impact that that has on your health. We actually know that people who do not have a good social connection with others and support system actually have worse health outcomes, regardless of what the condition is. So again, another major root cause of illness. Detox life is, I think, one of the most the most forgotten one of the root causes, because we don't think so much about the toxins that we're exposed to because there are so many toxins. So really addressing toxin exposure is hugely important. And resilient life is all about stress management. And this is absolutely not the last one. There are several other areas that we can focus on, but I find that if you can get control of these 7 areas in various different ways, then you'll actually have a huge impact on the way that you feel, regardless of what your condition is. So here's your hormone prescription, because I want you to walk away from today having some tangible steps that you can take. And they are to eat whole foods, we'll talk about this, prioritize sleep, and time-restricted eating. And you'll find that each of these 3, they actually will address multiple lifestyle prescriptions. So it's not that you have to address each of these individually, but by doing one simple thing, you're addressing multiple areas. So let's talk about eating whole foods. So eating whole foods means a lot of things. So people often ask me, what is the best diet for X, Y, and Z? What's the best diet in general? What's the best diet if I want to lose weight? What's the best diet for cancer or autoimmune conditions? And the reality is that there isn't one best diet. The question is, what's the right diet for you? And I hear it all the time. I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, I'm paleo, I'm keto, and all of these, sort of food fads. And all of them have a place, but one may be right for one person while another one is right for the next person. But there are some key themes that go through all of those diets that I think that regardless of whether or not you're a vegetarian or a vegan or a keto or a paleo, that if you follow some basic tenets, that you are eating a diet that will have the greatest health benefits from a scientific standpoint. So the major one is to eat whole foods. So you can eat, well, let me first say this. So eating whole foods versus processed foods. So you could be a vegetarian and eat nothing but processed foods and have a horrible diet. You could be keto again and eat nothing but processed foods and have a horrible diet and have a horrible impact on your health. So really the key here is really focusing on whole foods, regardless of which diet you choose. So whole foods would be things, I use the example, eating foods that used to be plants or used to feed on plants, so that would be animal products, instead of being made in a plant, which would be what I would call a food-like substance, like Michael Pollan says, a food-like edible substance, but not actually food. So really focusing on whole foods instead of processed foods. So this, just eating whole foods alone affects so many different things. It affects personal life. It has to do with the decisions that you make about what you eat. It has to do with detox, because the quality of the food helps your body detox. It's obviously food, so it's food life. Connected life, because the way that we eat and the foods that we choose to eat affect our relationships with people. When, we eat out a lot, and what that means and how do you address it from that aspect. And then also fit life, because the foods we eat have a huge impact on our ability to move, our ability to gain muscle, the ability to have energy for fitness. So you can see by just doing this one thing that you're impacting multiple areas. So the second thing is to prioritize sleep. And this is just a hugely forgotten benefit. People don't really understand, I found, the impact of sleep on their health and their hormones. But it's really important to balance your sleep and to prioritize sleep, particularly as you age. So if you were a person who could get off with 3 hours of sleep when you were in your 20s, that may have worked for you in your 20s, but it sure is not going to work for you as you get older, into your later 30s and your 40s and your 50s. And if you're ignoring that as a new reality for you, then you are going to miss a huge impact that you could be having on your overall health. And like I said before, sleep has a huge impact on other areas of your people's life prescription. So it impacts your stress levels, a resilient life, your personal life, obviously your sleep, but it also is your time when your body detoxifies the best, and it also impacts your cravings and the foods that your food choices. So sleep, again, is hugely, hugely important. And then time-restricted eating is another thing that I think is oftentimes overlooked, because when we're talking particularly about food, we're usually talking about what to eat, but we're not really ever talking about when to eat. And this is counter to what I even remember learning when I was in medical school about eating 6 small meals a day or eating frequently. But this actually causes havoc in your hormones, particularly your metabolic hormones. And as women, particularly as we age, it really becomes important for us to really thinking about food timing. And so the easiest strategy or the place to start is usually a 12-12 fast. And what that means is that you eat within a 12-hour window of the day. So if you have your first meal at, let's say, at 8 o'clock in the morning, then your last meal would be at 8 o'clock at night. And for some people, they can even do a smaller eating window. For example, I do an 8-16 window, meaning that I eat within an 8-hour window, and then I fast between a 16-hour window. So that means I might have my first meal at 10 a.m. and my last meal at 5 p.m. So again, it's different for everyone, but really thinking about food timing has a huge impact on your overall health, regardless of your symptoms. So the last thing I want to point out here is about how health is very communal. And this is super important, particularly as we think about how we as women are treated within the healthcare system. And if we think about historically how women have addressed their health, we've usually done it in a community base. And I know that a lot of people, when they think about their healthcare, they think about their one-on-one relationship with their doctor, which I think is really important. As a doctor, it's really important that I develop relationships with my patients. But when we're talking about sustainable health, we're really talking about changing our lifestyle and our behaviors in a way that support health and longevity and really addressing chronic illness, then community becomes hugely important. And one of the things that I truly believe is that when Black women take care of themselves, everyone gets better. And so I see this over and over in my practice, is that when the mothers of a family, or when the women in the family start to take control of their health, then everybody else seems to get better. Their spouses, their significant others, their children, their parents. Everybody seems to benefit from that one action. And so if you're interested in becoming a role model for those around you as you improve your health, then you will realize how impactful those changes can be. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about my program and the program that has changed the women that I've described earlier. And it's called the Black Women's Guide to Health, Hormones, and Longevity. So what is this program? First question I'm usually asked. And so I want to quickly go over the tenets of this program and why it was developed the way that it was. So it's an 8-week online course. And it allows you to get all the information in a turnkey fashion, everything that you need to address those pillars that we discussed earlier. And with that online program, we do live question and answers every week. This is a huge benefit because usually when I see patients just one-on-one, I may make a recommendation and then say, come back and see me in 6 weeks, come back and see me in 3 months. And a lot can happen in that time if you're not getting the support you need, particularly when we're addressing health from a lifestyle perspective. So weekly live Q&As with me to ask me any questions, to troubleshoot any problems that you might be having, and to allow yourself to gain more information, not just from me, but from the other women in the group. There's one-on-one health coaching so that it's not just you trying to figure it out on your own, but that you get specialized health coaching to go along to support and personalize this program towards you. You get everything in a written manual along with recipes that you can use, and then also direct messaging with the health coach. So this allows you to communicate with the health coach throughout the week so that if you have questions that come up, that you can communicate those and get additional support. And then there's also a closed Facebook group just for people who've going through this process so that if at any point in time you have questions that you believe are good for the group, if you want additional support, if you want to share a recipe, if other people are sharing information as they go through this process, that we do this in community. And so this is the program and all of the services that are allotted within it. So the next question is this program right for you, right? So if you're interested in safe and permanent weight loss, so a lot of women who do this program, because weight is such an issue in our communities, it's really important that we have a balanced approach to weight loss. So if you're interested in safe and permanent weight loss, then this program is great for you. But even if you're not interested in weight loss, the program can be tailored so that you can help maintain your weight and oftentimes optimize other health areas in your life. So if you're interested in just looking and feeling your best, having more energy, improving your sleep, increased mental clarity, more confidence, better digestion or other gut issues, lowering your stress levels, feeling more peaceful and grateful, balanced blood sugar, or have prediabetes or diabetes, or other metabolic issues, including high blood pressure, heart disease, then this is the right program. This program is for you. But this program isn't right for everyone. And so if you're interested in just a really quick fix, so you are just saying, I want to take a pill and I want all my problems to go away, I want all my health concerns to get better, then this isn't the right program for you. So you really want to be committed to your health. You want to be ready to make healthy choices. And you want lasting change. So you just don't want a quick fix. You're a person who's coachable, who's willing to be open-minded and learn new things and looking to grow. If you're willing to make changes and try something new, and you want to be an inspiration to those around you, these are essential qualities for being a part of this program. And so it's important that you recognize that. And then I want to address quickly some of the common myths that are around wellness and doing a program such as this. The number one myth is that I've tried everything. So you've been in Weight Watchers, or you've seen all of the doctors and all of the specialists, and you feel as though you've done all the things. And I can just tell you from doing and working with women for a very long time that this approach is much different than things that you've tried in the past. It's very specific to addressing the root causes of illness. And if you've done that, you may not have done it with the level of support that is provided in this program. So I really encourage you, if you feel like you've tried everything, give me a call. I do free discovery calls to help identify if this program is the right one for you, and identify areas that maybe you haven't thought about. The second myth is that I don't have time. And this is a very common concern because we're all busy and we all have a lot of things going on. You may be a person who's traveling a lot and you're wondering, can I actually do a program when I am so busy? And I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, but the main one is this, is that I don't believe that you don't have time. There isn't enough time to not do this program, because when people are faced with a chronic illness, when you are faced with feeling not at your best, you're not optimizing, you're not optimized in the way that you feel from day to day, you're losing time from fatigue and from not getting enough sleep, or from not feeling or looking your best when you present yourself out into the world. So it's really important to recognize that at some point that you're going to have to take the time, whether that's because you've developed an illness that you're going to have to be forced to address, or that you do it proactively to take the time to prevent from losing more time out of your life. And I think back to all of the energy that I spent in my own life, on my education, on my children, on my spouse, on different relationships that I have. When is it the right time to take time for myself? And so that's one of the questions I ask you to ask yourself. And then the last one is, I can figure this out on your own. And you absolutely can. There's a plethora of information out on the internet, and if you would like to filter through all of that information, figure out what is scientifically based, and figuring out exactly what works for you, then obviously you can do that. We all can. But one of the reasons I created this program and the way that I created it is because I wanted you to be able to have a one-stop shop where you could address these issues in a organized way that is turnkey, that you could do without having to figure it out on your own. So I encourage you just to think about, what is it worth to you, the time to be able to resolve whatever issue is plaguing you, and how much time has been wasted not having that result. So I leave you with this. Isn't it about time we took care of ourselves? And it's really important that we do take the time to do this, because our health and our life and our children and our society, honestly, is dependent upon us optimizing or operating at our highest level. So I am going to tell you about one last client, and this is a 72-year-old woman with a history of hypertension, persistent weight gain, who wanted to live a healthier life. She wants to be healthy enough to see her 5 grandchildren grow up. And so regardless of where you are on the spectrum of health, where you are, what stage of life you're in, there's no time too early to start this work, and it's no time too late to start this work. And what she says, what Dr. Peoples is teaching reminds me of the lost wisdom of our foremothers, the wisdom of knowing how to listen to our bodies and respond with compassionate action. And this is really important because I think a lot of what we're doing, the way that we're living our lives right now, is stepping away from some of the things that may have been shown to improve our health of our grandmothers and our mothers' mothers. And so really getting back to some of those core beliefs is really important in optimizing our health. So some of the other benefits I wanted to just highlight from her was that she now, many weeks after doing the program, has ongoing compliments for her weight loss. Her husband also lost some weight, and she's off of her blood pressure medication. So again, these are impacts that go far beyond just the initial presentation or the initial concern. So how do you get into this program? Where can you get more information? So you can go to the blackwomensguide.com. That's BLKWOMANSGUIDE.com. Black Women's Guide, black spelled with a BLK, women spelled with an A. Blackwomensguide.com. You can get more information about this program if you're interested, and it's you can also book a discovery call with me to get your questions answered. You can also follow me on social media at Dr. Nicole Peoples on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And I hope that if you have questions, you will book that discovery call. Let's talk it out. Let's come up with the solution for you. And I look forward to seeing you guys.